Well, there's only 1 week left. 1 week before it's all over. I thought I knew what I wanted, but now I'm not so sure. After graduation, I'll probably spend the summer working in my old man's hardware store, but what then? College? That's not how you get to be a rock and roll star. Human Subject 957 reporting for duty here at the Fake Museum. It is day 24, and today I went to the Fake IMAX auditorium to see a fake IMAX movie, and nothing is on screen because there's nobody in the fake IMAX projection booth. For those of you living under a rock or a 35mm projection booth, IMAX is the most proprietary of a handful of large format motion picture configurations that are designed to fill your peripheral view with images of utmost clarity. When exhibited properly, the audience is treated to a more immersive cinematic experience, the kind that truly changes lives and shapes the type of person you are from that day moving forward, providing everyone remember to turn their cell phones off. I'm looking at you. This harmonious hoop-de-doo is also, however, contingent on the presence of a projectionist, which wasn't the case back in 1792. Back then, all you needed to achieve panoramic transcendence was an English painter named Robert Barker. 2 centuries before catapulting to fame as the host of The Price is Right, Robert Barker coined the term panorama to describe this gigantic cylindrical painting of Edinburgh, Scotland he'd made with his son. Standing over 10.5 feet tall and measuring 77 feet in circumference, it presented a 360-degree view from atop a steeple, all within the comfort of a large round room. So basically there was a guy charging people money to come look at his painting, and it was so successful he was able to build a venue just for it in London. Employing some sophisticated wide-angle perspective trickery, the view presented by the painting was pretty convincing, so I'm willing to bet at least one person vomited. When he died in 1806, the torch was passed to his son Henry, who took the idea of the panorama a bit further, depicting historic battles and other epic action like a 19th century Michael Bay. By the mid-1800s, the trend of panoramic painting had spread way outside the Barker family. There were at least 126 known panoramic paintings across Europe by 1863. The trend caught on in America too, but in a somewhat different form. See, 360-degree panoramas required you to engage in exhausting activity like turning your head or rotating your body. But a New Yorker named John Banford painted a panorama that catered to the lazy, depicting a journey up and down the Mississippi River on a canvas that measured over half a mile, though it was advertised as 3 miles because that's America. Anyway, once you paid your 25 cents, all you had to do was look straight ahead, and the painting would scroll past you from one giant spool to a second giant spool as you went downriver. The second show of the day would take you upriver, clever devils. Each show is accompanied by organ or piano music and a narrator, just in case you forgot which river you were looking at any point along the way. The Mississippi proved to be a very popular subject among painters of scrolling panoramas. In the 1850s, there were at least 5 Mississippi panoramas touring the United States and Europe, each one claiming to be the largest painting on the planet because that's America. Eventually, somebody combined the 360-degree panorama with the scrolling panorama and started telling stories via the cyclorama. Now you're sitting in that circular room and the panorama is rotating around you, pretty much guaranteeing that somebody vomited. Banford was considered a great genius and was able to build a giant mansion with his vast riches. His invention was considered a new vanguard in storytelling media. Then somebody invented movies, and the paintings were eventually used as insulation in the walls of a house that subsequently burned down. So the turn of the 20th century ushered in the era of glorified flipbooks. Previous to then, when still photos were captured over the course of several minutes on a piece of copper coated in photosensitive emulsion, motion pictures were little more than a preposterous dream. But the invention of celluloid changed all that for both photographers and pyromaniacs. Employing all manner of optical illusion like phi phenomenon and beta movement, a series of still images could, if presented in the correct order obviously, create the illusion of motion. This technique had actually been around since darn close to the beginning of the millennium, when the Chinese invented the zoetrope, but called it the pipe which makes fantasies appear. The key to a successful zoetrope, or film projector, is having an obstruction that obscures the switching of one image to the next. Without it, you've got a blurry mess. Technically, this means that when you go out to the movies, the screen is literally blank between every frame. Thanks to persistence of vision, you don't notice, but there's only a movie on screen half the time. so you should really be asking for your money back. Throughout the 20th century, the shape and size of the 35mm frame went through more change than a hobo in a wishing well. The image was nearly perfectly square for about 50 years, but after the advent of television, among other reasons, the movie studios started concocting newer, wider ways to show movies. Cinerama, the earliest and most extreme example, used 3 projectors running simultaneously. Didn't take too long for everybody to say screw that and stick with various anamorphic lens procedures like CinemaScope, Superscope, and Technorama. Finally, they just made the film bigger, because that's America. 70mm was wider, larger, and clearer, like a 3-liter bottle of Crystal Pepsi. Finally, the folks at IMAX turned that bottle on its side to give us the hugest, most bedazzling square image of all. In the early days of IMAX, it was mostly nature films, like a trip up and down the Mississippi River, only 7 stories wide. But in recent years, all that's changed. Now they show regular movies too, and they do it on smaller screens, but it says IMAX, so it'll still cost you $19. And that's the story of fake IMAX. If you'd like to know more about moving pictures, look it up. And if you already know more, leave your wisdom in the comments. This is Human Subject 957, signing off.